Welcome to the Raise Your Energy podcast. My name is Linda Lange and I'm your host and energy expert to help you bring more energy back into your life. And the best way for us to recharge is by getting enough and quality sleep. 2 years ago, when I started this podcast, my first episode was all about sleep. And now on episode 100, I'm going to pick up the topic again and share with you what I have learned and implemented over the last 2 years to improve my sleep. Let's begin. Do you struggle to fall asleep in the evening or stay asleep at night? Maybe you are someone who regularly is awake for hours and hours in the middle of the night. That is what I'm going to cover in today's episode. I'm going to explain what happens in our brain and our body when we're lying in bed wide awake and worrying that we're not getting enough sleep. Once you're able to understand what happens, you can do something about it, right? And I'll share with you what I do when I have times where I cannot seem to fall asleep or I'm awake in the middle of the night for no good reason. Because let's be honest, it's really frustrating and super annoying watching the time on the alarm clock go by hour on hour and not being able to get the restful sleep that we all need. It sucks. I'm most certainly not a sleep expert. I give you that. I just share with you what I have learned about our brain and our body and why it makes complete sense that we are wide awake when we're in certain states of being. A few years ago, when I still struggled with this, it would drive me crazy. Wasting all of that time in the middle of the night and then feeling tired for most of the next day. And that might be the same for you. So the good news is that once you know what is actually happening inside of you, you can step into self-regulation and bring your mind and body back to sleep. It might need a few practices. Well, as always, everything needs a bit of practice, right? But I think you would agree that it's so worth it. Having a good night of sleep is just the best. Feeling refreshed in the morning and ready to tackle anything that life throws at you is priceless. So why is it that we cannot fall asleep or stay asleep? What happens inside of us when we experience this? Let's start with our brain. Our brain is constantly producing waves, which we can actually measure for quite a while. And those brain waves are classified predominantly into alpha, beta, theta, and delta brainwave patterns. And at night, when you're asleep, your brain is in delta brainwave patterns. These are very slow waves. Not a lot is going on in there. So then, when we start waking up, we move from delta, where we were asleep, to theta, to alpha, and then lastly to beta. And this journey usually happens very quickly. And then we spend most of our day in different levels of beta brainwave patterns. This is when you're conscious, you're awake, you are actively using your brain to go about your day. You are actually currently listening to me in beta brainwave patterns. Then if you would meditate, you move out of the beta and into the alpha and maybe even into the theta brainwave patterns. Alpha is where you are very relaxed, and that's when we think more in pictures and images. And theta brainwave patterns means we are in a suggestible state, in a hypnotic state, and very close to falling asleep. So why is this all so important to understand? The reason is that for our body and for our mind to fall asleep, we have to move through those brainwave states. We have to move towards the delta brainwave patterns to fall asleep. We cannot fall asleep when we are stuck in beta brainwaves. And that means that when you are actively thinking about things, you are in the typical brainwaves, which means you are nowhere close to falling asleep. For you to be able to fall asleep, you want to slow your brainwaves down. You want to move out of that active thinking state of your brain and move to lower brainwave patterns where you're closer and closer to falling asleep, the delta brainwave patterns. Does this make sense to you now? So that's really the first reason why it makes sense biologically and physically that we cannot fall asleep when we are still thinking about things up in here in our head. It's just not possible. Makes sense. Now, the second part of our body that I want to discuss in this topic is our nervous system. You know how I love to talk about our nervous system. And you might have heard me talk about the two main branches of the nervous system before. The sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight and flight nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the restore and recovery nervous system. So what do you think? In which part of the nervous system can we fall asleep? In the fight and flight nervous system or the recover and restore nervous system? I know you got the answer right. Of course, we cannot fall asleep easily if we are stuck in the fight and flight nervous system. The body has to stay awake because it perceives a threat or a danger. All of the physical processes that are happening in that state prepare you either to run, to hide, or to fight. But most certainly not to fall asleep. And that means we want to regulate our nervous system. And if you are stressed, then you want to move out of that stress response. Only then will you be able to fall asleep anytime soon. Now let's talk about how to do this. How can we use what we've just learned to help us fall asleep better? Let me share with you what I do when I experience either beta brainwave patterns or an activated sympathetic nervous system, but I actually want to fall asleep. The first thing that I learned not to do anymore is to get frustrated or worry about not sleeping. I remember lying awake years ago, wrapped up in all of my thoughts about something, and then worrying that I don't get enough sleep. And that worrying supports both the beta brainwave patterns and the sympathetic nervous system. So that is really the first thing that you want to let go of. The frustration around not being able to fall asleep or the worry that you're not getting enough sleep. The second step is to disrupt the thought patterns that keep you in that beta brainwave pattern. So whatever you're thinking about, stop yourself from doing it. As long as you keep mulling over all of these thoughts, you're not going to be able to lower your brainwave patterns towards those delta brainwaves. There are many tools that you can use to disrupt your thought patterns. I personally love to move into a meditative state by either focusing on my breathing or focusing on the space that is all around me and sensing that space. And I know that both of those automatically lower my brain waves down. And both of these are great tools as well to use yourself to get out of that sympathetic, that fight and flight nervous system and into the parasympathetic nervous system, the recovery and the restore. So if I feel agitated or nervous or frustrated or angry or sad or any other stress emotions, I want to disrupt that cycle of that emotion as well. Focusing on your breathing or the space around you, sensing that space, helps wonders to move from the fight and flight nervous system into the recover and restore nervous system. And then once you disrupt that cycle of that stress response emotion, you concentrate on emotions that are related to restoration and recovery and therefore sleep. And that can be emotions of love or gratitude or calmness or wholeness or oneness. All of these emotions are part of the recovery and the restoration and the harmonization process. So they will help you to fall asleep as well. And while I'm using one of those tools to lower my brainwave patterns or move into the restoration and recovery nervous system, I love to use as well a little mantra to keep my mind busy and not go again back to those thought patterns. I like to say something like, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. And it really works well for me. I start to feel very sleepy when I think that, and I feel tired suddenly. And shortly afterwards, I generally actually fall asleep. You can try out the same mantra that I do, or choose something similar. You could say, I am sleepy, or I am already asleep, I am sleeping. You could say, I have the best night of sleep, I have the best night of sleep. Or I am deeply asleep and dreaming wonderfully. Whatever works for you. So, to summarize the steps that I use to bring myself quickly to sleep when I struggle with it in the evening or in the middle of the night. First of all, don't worry and don't get frustrated about not being able to sleep. Secondly, disrupt the thought patterns that you are currently thinking about so you can lower your brain waves out of those beta brainwave patterns. You can focus, for example, on your breathing or on the space all around you. Thirdly, the same tools work for you as well to regulate down one part of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and regulate up the parasympathetic nervous system. And then bring up emotions that are suitable for sleeping and help you just be in a very relaxed state. And lastly, number 4, use a mantra while you're moving towards sleep. Once you use this again and again, it gets programmed into your subconscious mind as a signal for you to fall asleep every time you think that one thought. And if you like to meditate, I created a sleep meditation a couple of months ago for exactly that reason. And you can find that meditation on my YouTube channel. In that meditation, I actually guide you through those different stages of the brain waves. So try it out, especially at the beginning. It can really help you to practice lowering your brainwave patterns by yourself. Okay, that's all I have for you today on the topic of falling asleep and staying asleep. Let me know if this was helpful. Connect with me via Instagram, via Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, as I would love to hear from you. Maybe you even have already a very strong sleep routine and you can share it with all of us here so we can learn from you. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you can see the next episodes and videos, and leave me a thumbs up if you like this video. And with that, I love you and leave you. Talk soon and bye bye.